Hey everyone, Dr. Matt Geller here. Glad to be back. Hope you're enjoying Eyes on Glaucoma. I've got an excellent guest next, Dr. Nate Radcliffe. Super excited. Let's bring him on. How's it going, my friend?
Hey, how are you, Matt? Great to be here.
I'm doing well. You enjoying the show?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me.
Of course, wouldn't be the same without you. So we're going to continue the SLT talk now. And, for those that don't know you, I'd love just a brief background, kind of where you got started and where you're at now.
Sure. So I did most of my training in New York City, despite internship here in Hawaii. But I started my career at Cornell as the director of the glaucoma service there. I was there for about 5 years and practiced, I think that the standard academic practice for New York City. And I then wanted to do more volume and found some opportunities in the Bronx and have moved around a bit since then. I'm currently a pretty high volume glaucoma specialist practicing mostly in the Bronx, and I'm with Mount Sinai School of Medicine 1 day a week in New York City. So a toe in the door of academics, but very much a clinician. To treat a lot of Medicaid patients. I think I'm in the real world. And I've kept up a bit on research over the years. I started my research at Cornell, a lot of hysteresis, some OCT research. Of course, as MIGS has evolved, I've been very involved in that, many papers on, early outcomes and, that type of thing. So lots of interest in glaucoma, laser therapy, MIGS, hysteresis, and maybe I'm a bit scatterbrained, but I love the field, and it's a challenging disease, so it'll keep anyone busy.
No, for sure. Innovating as well. And I didn't know you're at Mount Sinai. Do you work with Dan Epstein at all? He's a good friend of mine.
I'm a little isolated. I'm in a Tribeca office on Worth Street, and I wish I could actually circulate around a little bit better. I sometimes think they're almost sequestering me down there, but I don't get too many visitors. And, I come in and I see patients, but, it's obviously a great institution and, really exciting. It joining up the New York Eye and Ear Infirmary, and it's now, I think, the biggest residency program in the country, maybe. Wow. It's really big.
Yeah, sure. I do miss New York City, I'm not going to lie. It was real fun. I mean, we moved to San Diego 7 years ago, so I'm not complaining either, but I'm excited to get back, maybe towards the end of the year. So tell us about your SLT story, though. You and I were briefly talking prior, and it sounds like you weren't really big on it. You were not. Tell us about kind of what that journey's looked like.
So, in my residency and even fellowship, there wasn't a lot of SLT done. I did do a glaucoma fellowship. It was mainly used to stave off surgery if possible. So I began practicing at Cornell and using it to that purpose. Someone was way above target, they're on 4 meds. I think you need surgery, let's try laser. And, I've now come to the conclusion that that's pretty much the wrong place, or maybe even the worst place for the laser, because you're now subjecting a patient to almost guaranteed 2 procedures, because the laser can't, someone who needs surgery. They don't need a laser, they need surgery, and you know that. So why laser that person? And you're not being fair to the laser, because what we've learned about lasers, it works really well early in the disease, and not as well towards the end of the disease. And no laser is going to get you 15 millimeters of mercury, which is what most out of control glaucoma patients need. So I sort of got to the Bronx, and I heard a patient say the craziest thing to me one time. He said, "What do you think is best for me, doc?" And it's funny, but I didn't have a lot of Cornell patients telling me that. They kind of had their idea of what they already had decided was best for them. And it's one of the reasons I love practicing in the Bronx, is the trust with patients. And I started recommending SLT early, even before the first drop. Maybe if they had side effects from the first drop, maybe if they had compliance issues with the first drop. And it was amazing how much things changed when I started doing that. I got laser efficacy that was like nothing I'd ever seen. I was helping people with dry eye, even I'm a glaucoma specialist, and that began a whole interest of mine in dry eye and glaucoma. I mean, that alone is a fascinating area.
Yeah.
But I came to basically be a real believer in the laser. And I would say now I may be mostly primary SLT, rather than drops. And I do use it for other compliance issues, for side effect profile help. I don't repeat it a ton. I get a lot out of the first one, and we usually get along fine with that. I'm just a huge believer in the technology and in using it in the right place in the right way.
Oh, that's exactly. You got all sorts of tools, and you've got to use the right one for the job. Let's talk about the light study and how that, shows us that, or you're the expert on it, but looking forward to hear what you have
Yeah.
to say. But how does that play into the way you kind of refreshed your mind in thinking about SLT as primary?
So before I tell you about the light study, think of a question that a patient might ask you, and it would be, which do you think I should have, doctor? Eye drops or laser? And I think before the light study, the answer most doctors would give is you could have either. But when you say that, the patient's almost always going to choose drops because they're scared of lasers. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It sounds worse than it is, but that's how the patient mind thinks, for better or for worse. The light study was a prospective randomized 3-year trial where newly diagnosed ocular hypertensive or glaucoma patients were randomized to SLT laser versus drops, which usually meant latanoprost. And we learned just so many things from that. But to start, 75% of the time, the laser went unaugmented, meaning they never needed drops. And that's pretty remarkable. IOPs were similar between the laser and drop patients over the 3-year period. The cost effectiveness of laser was established as being less expensive even than latanoprost over the 3-year period. And so a lot of initial findings sort of seemed equivalent or maybe favored laser. And then the real findings started coming in. In the eye drop group, there was more cataract surgery. There were more patients who went on to need glaucoma surgery in the eye drop group, 11 out of about 350. Now, first of all, that's weird because that's like 3% of newly diagnosed ocular hypertensive or glaucoma patients needed glaucoma surgery within 3 years of their diagnosis and initial treatment with drops. That should be alarming. But it tells us glaucoma isn't always an innocent disease. It isn't always benign. And even in a 3-year period, we're seeing a meaningful deterioration in some cases. What number of patients in the SLT group went on to need a tube or a trab in those 3 years? None. No lasers went on to need tube or trab. Some got drops, about a quarter. No needed tube or trab. That's a profound difference between groups. Rapid visual field progressors, much more in the eye drop group than in the SLT laser group. And again, despite similar pressures. So how do you make sense of that? Well, the laser doesn't take a day off. The laser doesn't forget to work one day. And the laser doesn't only work because you remember to take your drops right before a visit, which probably is what patients are doing. So I think we finally saw that just because you have two similar pressure reductions doesn't mean these therapies are equivalent. Laser works 24 hours a day. Latanoprost probably does too, but laser is more uniform in its efficacy over those 24 hours. And we know that eye drops have peaks and troughs, even in a 24-hour curve. So, a lot of really strong evidence. And so I'll wrap up the light trial saying it probably changed the way we answer, doc, which one do you think is better for me? Because I think now, rather than saying it's your choice, I have to say that we have more evidence that SLT laser is better for you. And interestingly, at several conferences, we've asked the audience, ODs and MDs alike, what would you want if it were your eye? And the last time we asked it, we got 85% choosing laser over eye drops. So you can also tell, hey, patients, doctors, if they were the patient, would want the laser.
Yeah, no, and I love the way you put that. The laser doesn't take a day off. Couldn't help but smile with that one. I don't know if you saw, I brought this up a couple times now, but you literally just said it in our survey of 667 ODs that we did a couple weeks ago. Their primary go-to treatment for POAG was 84% topical, 6.4% SLT. But when they asked, and thank you, Justin, for asking us to include this question, if you were diagnosed with glaucoma today, what would be your primary treatment option for yourself? 50% topicals, 33% SLT. So maybe those attending a laser lecture, different results, but still, that is some great, hardcore evidence right there. Download this in your conference bag, by the way, for free, of course. So the laser doesn't take a day off, and certainly Lumenis lasers don't take a day off either. You've had kind of a history watching Lumenis lasers evolve in their own way. Where did it start? Where's it at now? Tell us about the new Digital Duet and that system.
So it is great. I've been using Lumenis lasers for 11 or 12 years now, and I've used every model. So, I know them all well. I kind of like all of them, honestly, but the Digital Duet is the one that is most different from all of its predecessors. And it really kind of enters the space of, what more can a laser do that's going to give you options that you never thought you had, streamline efficiency, take better care of your patients, educate your patients, explain procedures to them, educate students who are with you. And I do teach students in clinic, and it just provides all sorts of neat things. So I'll start by saying the main difference with the Digital Duet, which can also be a digital trio if you want an argon style laser, is that there is a video system and a screen. Mm-hmm. So you can have your laser in real time being displayed in the room. So that's something, and you can record it. You can, of course, save it. So if you're going to give a presentation, you can show the patient after what you did to their eye. And you can do things like slit lamp photographs. For example, I now give all my Durista injections at the Digital Duet laser. And it's become a bit of a procedure workstation. Now, why is it nice to give an injection of Durista at your SLT laser? Well, it's really well ergonomically designed, wheelchair accessible, highly adjustable in a way that the slit lamp kind of room setup isn't quite. And it provides a nice stable situation for the patient to rest their head in, just as you would for the laser. And then you can take video, you can show your technicians watching can kind of say, oh, looks like, Dr. Radcliffe's almost done. I'll hand him this, I'll give him that, we'll do this next. So it's not just about recording for a presentation, but I feel like I draw my techs in better. And now I hear them educating the patients. Oh, this laser is really nothing. I've seen him do it. And this time they've really seen me do it. They know what it actually looks like. And they become part of the team. So it draws people in. Now those are like some of the, that's like the tail fin on a sports car. I mean, it's the bell and whistle, and we all love that stuff. But there's some practical advantages. So you can enter the patient's name, date of birth. You can generate reports automatically. You can save those reports to your electronic medical record. You create your own setting log. So it's always recording the settings when you do a laser. So that's just automatically, and I have one office where someone's writing down the whole time I'm doing lasers. So kind of adds that type of efficiency. That report could go to a referring doctor, could get saved in the EMR. I like taking pictures of things that I treat. Sometimes pre and post YAG caps, iridotomies. Some of that could be beneficial for insurance purposes. Some of it could just be, to again show a referring provider what happened with the laser session. And I use it just as a slit lamp camera. So if a patient comes in with a suspicious conjunctival lesion, I'm no longer having like a dedicated slit lamp and room that's taking up space and costing me overhead in my office. I just use the Digital Duet for that. And then the final part of this is that, if there's anything going on with the laser, Lumenis can remote in because it's online and digital, and they can run diagnostics, update your software, and kind of, figure out all sorts of things that you may need to know about your laser without sending anyone there. Now, that probably saves Lumenis money, but more importantly, it saves me time because I don't want to wait, till tomorrow for the repair person who can't be there in an instant, but their tech support they can get on and help me if there's anything going on with the laser instantly.
Certainly a long list of positives there, no doubt about it. And I'd expect nothing less from Lumenis for sure. They've got incredible technologies. When it comes to just educating the future docs of tomorrow, do you have any specific stories or instances when using this laser that kind of pop up and make you really demonstrate the educational potential of it? Anything in that vicinity?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say, we have to recognize that our topical therapies just have these problems, and they cause irritation. As one colleague put it once, we are pickling the eye when we use preservatives, and we all do it. And look, I recently realized how many prescriptions I write, and I write a ton. I'm still treating glaucoma topically all day long, but I'll catch myself about to start someone on dry eye therapy who's also on a topical agent, and I'll say, wait a minute, can't I fix this by just going to laser? Laser's going to evolve. I think, by the way, more practitioners will be doing it. I mean, you see it growing within the optometric space. And I think that's going to continue because as it becomes the preferred first-line therapy for all glaucoma patients, we're going to need everyone who treats glaucoma to have access to it one way or another. But so I think it's growing for all of us. I would say comprehensive ophthalmologists need to do more laser. It's not debatable. Our numbers aren't as high as they should be. It's not particularly profitable. I don't want anyone to have the impression that there's a strong financial incentive to do laser. It reimburses for the time, but at a very modest and reasonable rate. This is more about doing the right thing for patients. It's an efficacious way to treat a horrible disease, and it's sustained. And is it really fair to ask an 83-year-old to start taking drops, which is a highly dexterous, complex, it involves memory, navigating the pharmacy, dealing with copays, your insurance. I mean, there's so many things involved. And a laser is like, a several moment long session, and then you're treated for years. And so it's elegant, and I think it represents the way this disease should be treated. And pay attention to it and get to know it, because I think it's going to be a big part of all of our futures.
I love that you brought that last part up. It was just eloquently said, and I don't know, it just kind of really made me think. I remember putting 80-year-old plus on drops for the first time, and maybe they had their wherewithal and it didn't seem like a big deal, but you're right, and it's really something to keep in mind here, especially as new therapies come out. We've got MIGS and all sorts of new innovations happening. It's critical that we really look at our tool belt here and see what's best. And it's nice that a laser like Digital Duet has these other beneficial features. So, in SLT where it may not reimburse the best, you're doing the right thing, you're still able to capitalize on the technology in other ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So last one I got for you here, just position SLT technology with Digital Duet specifically positioned. How is this positioned to address the ongoing needs, just in general, of a practice and of a growing practice, and one that's trying to wrestle with all of the changes happening in eye care?
So when I think about my practice, it's frustrating because we hire a full-time person just to deal with pharmacy callbacks. And we pay money to put people on eye drops, and you don't think about that. You sort of figure this is the cost of doing business. But one thing you see growing are specialty pharmacies, because they help with PAs and they take some of that work out of the office. Why are they so popular? Because we're all struggling to meet all the logistic demands. Writing a prescription slows you down in the office. It slows the patient down when they leave your office. It costs your office money. It's an administrative burden, and then you have side effects, additional callbacks with prior auth from the pharmacy. I mean, it's a mess. How much easier is laser? So a practice that kind of embraces this, gets the laser like Digital Duet, and treats people this way, could be getting patients in because they want this therapy. Patients talk about it because, hey, I got off my drops, you should see my doctor. It's good. It's like doing well by doing good, and you're doing good things for patients. You're going to bring more patients into the practice. You're going to have good outcomes. And of course, you get paid for a laser. So instead of paying money to put people on drops and hiring that prior auth technician, you're bringing revenue in. That's supporting the practice, helping the practice grow, helping the practice stay fiscally healthy, and again, in a cost-effective manner. So it's not like you're hurting the healthcare system. You're saving the patient's insurance company money by doing a laser. So it's better. Patients save money because they cut their copays and have to spend time. The doctor does better because they bring money into the practice. The insurance company does better because drops over time are more expensive than lasers. So I count 3 wins there.
Yeah. Plus, fourth, you're saving some plastic. I don't like the plastic in the environment just going in the landfill. It takes 1,000 years. And it's funny, when I did this survey and said what would be the primary therapy if I had glaucoma, I answered topicals. But now I'm like 4 SLT interviews in today, and I gotta say I'm going to the other side.
Yeah.
This was fantastic. Any closing thoughts or just pearls out there? I really appreciate it. Super solid advice.
So I'll say one thing. I spoke a little bit on hysteresis, which is a passion of mine earlier. And I opened by saying I diagnosed my own mom with glaucoma, 15 years ago when I was a resident. She's had two lasers, 10 years apart now. She does take her drops, and she is still on a couple of drops. This laser isn't a 2-year thing. It lasts for a very long time for most patients and can be repeated if it has to be, but usually doesn't. Give it its chance. It deserves a bigger place in our therapy. And I just also want to say that I love what you're doing with this conference. Got a really neat vibe, and I look forward to seeing you have more and more success with this platform. Glaucoma education, we have so many patients who don't know they have it. So many doctors need all the tools to treat it because it is challenging. And so I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing here today.
It's my pleasure, and to our entire team at Eyes on Eye Care, hats off to you guys for making this amazing event happen. And Dr. Radcliffe, I'd love to do an article that has like an accompanying video showing SLT and really just continuing on this topic. So I may reach out to you about that because I'd love to just kind of continue this even outside of the live environment. I think there's a ton of value.
Anytime. I love it.
Sounds good. I really appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of the show, and thanks again. Take
Great.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.